My name is Margaret Okafor. I am 68 years old, and what I am about to tell you is not just a story of loss and betrayal. It is a long journey, one that spans decades of love, sacrifice, quiet foresight, deep pain, slow healing, and finally, a redemption that came not through anger, but through patience, kindness, and the unexpected grace of time. Let us go back to the very beginning, because some stories cannot be rushed. I was born in a small village in Imo State in 1957. My father was a farmer, my mother a trader who walked miles to sell palm oil and yams at the market. Life was simple. We had little money, but we had land, family, and faith. Every Sunday, we walked to the Catholic church in our best wrappers, and I would sit wide-eyed listening to the priest speak of love, forgiveness, and God's mysterious plans. At 17, I moved to Lagos with my aunt to find work. The city was overwhelming. The noise, the crowds, the endless rush of people chasing dreams. I worked as a housemaid for a kind Lebanese family in Ikoyi. They treated me well, taught me to read and write better English, and paid me enough to send money home. That is where I met Joseph, Okafor. He was a junior clerk in the Ministry of Education. Quiet, serious, with gentle eyes and a smile that made you feel safe. He came to the house to deliver some official papers one afternoon, and we spoke for only a few minutes. But something happened in those minutes. A week later, he returned with an excuse about forgotten documents. Then again. Soon he was waiting for me outside the gate after work, walking me to the bus stop, buying me roasted plantain from the roadside vendor. We courted slowly, properly. He met my aunt, I met his parents. 2 years later, in 1980, we married in a simple ceremony at St. Dominic's Church in Yaba. I wore a white lace gown my mother had sewn by hand. Joseph wore a borrowed suit. We had 50 guests, jollof rice, palm wine, and so much joy. We rented a single room in Cerullar. Joseph worked hard, studying at night for promotions. I continued domestic work, then started taking in sewing. In 1982, Daniel was born, our first child, a strong boy with his father's eyes. 2 years later came Michael, always laughing. Then in 1988, Grace, our baby girl, quiet and thoughtful. Life was not easy. Salaries were small, prices rose. There were strikes, fuel shortages, military governments, but we managed. We saved every kobo. Joseph refused to borrow money or join the dash culture that was spreading. We will build slowly, he always said, but we will build honestly. By 1990, we had enough for a small plot on Adebayo Street. We bought it with cash. Then began the long process of building our house, one bag of cement at a time, one block at a time. Joseph came home from work and laid bricks himself. On weekends, his brothers helped. I cooked for the workers. Year by year, walls rose. A foundation, a ground floor. Then the upper floor. In 1998, we finally moved in. 3 bedrooms, a parlor, a kitchen, a veranda. I planted the mango tree in front the day we moved. Daniel was 16, Michael 14, Grace 10. We had a party with neighbors, music, prayer. Joseph stood on the veranda and said quietly, "This is our legacy, built with clean hands. Those were golden years." The children grew. School runs every morning. Homework in the evenings. Joseph marking papers at the dining table while I sewed beside him. Sundays at Mass, then family lunch, pounded yam, egusi soup, chicken. The grandchildren started coming in the 2000s. The house rang with children's voices again. Joseph was promoted several times. He became a senior examiner. We could have lived more comfortably, bought a car, traveled, but Joseph was careful. He invested quietly. I never asked details. I trusted him completely. Then in 2010, everything changed. It was a normal Tuesday evening. Joseph came home, kissed me, sat at the table with his papers and a cup of tea. We spoke about Grace's upcoming wedding. He complained of a slight headache. I told him to rest. An hour later, he slumped forward. I screamed. Neighbors rushed in. The ambulance came, but by the time we reached the hospital, he was gone. Massive stroke. I do not remember much of the weeks that followed. The funeral was large. Colleagues, former students, family. The children were devastated. I functioned on autopilot. Nights were the worst. The bed felt too big. His chair empty. His shaving brush still on the sink. But life demands you go on. The children needed me. I threw myself into being the perfect grandmother, the strong matriarch. I refused to show weakness. Time passed. The children built their lives. Daniel married Bose, had 2 children. Michael married Kioma, had 3. Grace married Emmanuel, had 1 daughter. They visited often. I was happy, or so I thought, but first hints came slowly. Comments about how big the house was, how expensive electricity had become, how I didn't need all this space anymore. I laughed them off. Then they became suggestions. Mama, think about selling. Property prices are high now. You could have money to enjoy your old age. I said no. This was not just a house. It was our life's work, but they persisted, gently at first. Then more insistently. Then came the day Daniel brought the papers. It was a Saturday morning. He arrived alone, smiling, carrying a folder. Mama, we worry about you. What if you fall? Ill suddenly? We need to be able to act quickly. This is just a simple power of attorney. It lets us handle things if you can't. I was making breakfast. My glasses were in the bedroom. The print looked small. I trusted my son. I signed. I did not know then. Buried in those pages was permission to sell property on my behalf. 3 months later, the phone call from Grace shattered my world. I was in Teosho Market, the air thick with smells of spices. Fish, fresh tomatoes. My phone rang. Mama, good news. The house is sold. The buyers want to move in soon. We found a lovely place for you, a proper elderly residence with medical care. We'll come help you pack. My basket of vegetables dropped to the ground. Tomatoes rolled in the dust. What did you say? Her voice was impatient. Mama, we talked about this. It's too much house for you. The money is safe. We've put $2 million in your account. That's generous. You'll be comfortable. $2 million. I knew the going rate in Soriller. The house had sold for at least $120 million. I walked home in a trance. When I opened the door, Michael and Daniel were already there with cartons. My clothes, photos, Joseph's old books, everything being packed away. I confronted them. They avoided my eyes. It's legal, Mama, you signed. For emergencies, not to sell my home. But they had lawyers' letters. It was done. I refused. To go to the elderly home, I told them I would manage. They shrugged, said they'd visit soon, and left. That night, I sat on the veranda for the last time. The mango tree rustled in the breeze. I spoke to Joseph. What do I do now, my love? The next morning, I packed 1 suitcase close, my Bible, a few photos, Joseph's old wristwatch, and walked out before they came to change the locks. I did not go to any child's house to beg. Pride, or perhaps the beginning of strength, stopped me. I went to St. Mary's Church. Father Emmanuel, the young parish priest, saw me sitting in the back pew, suitcase beside me. He listened without judgment as I told him everything. That evening, he gave me a room in the church guest house, small, clean, with a single bed, a table, and a window looking out on green grass. Stay as long as you need, Auntie Margaret. This is God's house. For the first month, I barely left that room. I ate little. slept poorly. The pain was physical, a heavy stone on my chest. I replayed every moment, every sacrifice. Every night I stayed up sewing so they could have school fees. Every time I went hungry so they could eat meat. How could love turn to this? Father Emmanuel visited daily, brought food, prayed with me. But healing cannot be rushed. One Sunday after Mass, I walked into the compound next door, Hope Children's Home. Mama Ngozi ran it alone after her husband died young. 32 children, babies abandoned at hospitals, children orphaned. By accidents, illness, poverty. The building was old, paint peeling, roof leaking in places. But the children's eyes were bright with hope. I stood at the gate watching them play. Mama Ngozi saw me. "Auntie, you look familiar. Do you want to come in?" I have time now," I said. "A lot of time. Let me help." She did not ask why a woman with a suitcase was suddenly free. She simply handed me a crying baby and said, "This one needs feeding." From that moment, everything began to change. The days took on rhythm. Morning prayers with the children. Breakfast. PAP or akara if donations allowed. Then chores. I cooked huge pots of rice and stew. Washed clothes by hand, mended torn uniforms. Taught the older ones to read and write. Sang lullabies to the babies. And slowly, very slowly, joy returned. There was one child who attached himself to me completely. Emmanuel. He was 8 years. Old, thin, serious eyes, a quiet smile when it came. His parents and older sister had died in a bus accident on 3rd Mainland Bridge. He had survived with a broken arm and nightmares. At first, he just watched me. Then he started helping, carrying water, folding small clothes. One evening, as I told stories under the neem tree, he climbed into my lap. "Grandma Margaret," he whispered, "will you stay forever?" My heart broke and mended at the same time. I will stay as long as God allows, my child. He became my shadow. We developed rituals. Every evening after supper, stories. Tortoise and hare, why the sky is far, tales my mother told me. He fell asleep with his head on my shoulder. Months passed. My real children called occasionally. "How are you?" "Settling in the home, Mama." I never corrected them. One rainy evening in my little room, I was sorting through the few boxes they had sent from the house. At the bottom of one was a small wooden box I had almost forgotten. Joseph had given it to me a week before he died. "Keep this safe. Maggie. Only open it if you are ever truly alone and in desperate need." I had put it away and forgotten it in the grief. Now my hands shook as I opened it. Inside, wrapped carefully, were documents. A title deed to 1.5 acres of land in Lucky Phase 2. Bought in 1998 when it was cheap. Papers for a 4-story commercial building in Abuja with long-term tenants. Bank statements for a Barclays account in London. Opened during an official trip in 2005. Balance. £67,000. Over $87,000. And a letter in Joseph's beautiful handwriting. "My dearest Margaret, if you are reading this, I am gone, and perhaps times are hard. I never told you everything. Not because I doubted you, but because I saw small signs over the years, how the children's eyes changed when money was discussed. I feared that one day love might be tested by wealth. So I invested quietly, land that would grow in value, property that brings steady income, savings abroad safe from inflation and greedy hands. This is for you alone. Use it wisely. Do not reveal it too soon. Let their hearts be tested. True children love without inheritance. If they have failed you, build a new life. You are stronger. Then you know I am always with you, forever. Joseph, I cried that night, not from sorrow, but from wonder that my quiet husband had seen the future. He had protected me when I didn't even know I needed protecting. I was not destitute. I was safe. The next day, I contacted a lawyer Father Emmanuel recommended, an honest older man who handled church matters. We worked quietly, transferred funds, carefully, verified everything. The Lecky land alone was now worth hundreds of millions. The Abuja building brought steady rent. I was wealthy, silently, safely, but I told no one. Not yet. Instead, I began sending anonymous donations to Hope. Children's home. First, money for a new roof, then a modern cooking stove, then school fees and uniforms, medicine, books, toys. Mama Ngozi wept with joy at every miracle. The children bloomed. Emmanuel gained weight, started laughing freely, dreamed aloud of becoming a doctor too. Fix broken people like Grandma fixes broken clothes. I watched from the shadows as my real children began to face consequences. Michael's business suffered from Naira crash. Grace's husband was retrenched. Daniel lost clients. They began searching for me, genuinely, desperately. Daniel came to the church often, asking Father Emmanuel. Posted missing person flyers with my photo and a reward. One afternoon, wearing a headscarf and old glasses, I sat on a bench near the orphanage and watched him pin up a flyer. His face was thinner, eyes red from worry or guilt. Something shifted. And me, that night, I wrote a letter and had a trusted altar boy deliver it anonymously. My son, your mother is safe and watching. Words are easy. Actions are hard. Help those who have no one. Expect nothing in return. Show me your heart has changed. Only then may we speak again. A friend. I signed nothing. Over the next year, I watched them change. Daniel began volunteering at orphanages on weekends, bringing food, reading to children. Michael quietly paid hospital bills for neighbors. Grace started free tutoring for poor students. They were learning slowly, painfully, what it meant to give without expecting reward. I bought a modest 2-bedroom flat in Yaba, comfortable but simple, close enough to walk to the church and orphanage daily. I continued living quietly, volunteering, loving the children. Emmanuel turned 9. We had a party, cake, new clothes, a bicycle from an anonymous donor. His joy was pure. 18 months after leaving Adebayo Street, I felt the time had come. I sent word through Father Emmanuel. Tell my children to come to St. Mary's on Sunday after Mass. Someone wishes to speak about their mother. They arrived nervous, hopeful, guilty. When they saw me standing in the garden under the neem tree, healthy, surrounded by laughing children, with Emmanuel holding my hand, they froze. Mama? We sat for hours. I told them everything. The pain of the phone call, the loneliness of the first months. Finding Joseph's box. The hidden wealth. My new life among the orphans. How I watched them search, how I tested them, how they had begun to pass. The test. There were tears, apologies, silence. Grace wept into my wrapper like a child. Michael could not speak. Daniel knelt. Mama, we were blind, greedy, cruel, forgive us. I looked at them for a long time. I forgave you long ago, I said finally, but forgiveness is not forgetting. It is choosing to begin again, differently. I had already quietly bought back the Adebayo Street house through a company. And my name, half I turned into a shelter for abandoned elderly women, clean rooms, a garden, caring staff, dignity. The other half I kept as my own, though I still spend most nights in my Yaba flat near the children who need me most. Today, my biological children visit regularly, not for money, but for time. Daniel reads stories to the orphans every Saturday. Grace teaches English and sewing. Michael maintains the generator and vehicles free of charge. Emmanuel now calls them Uncle Daniel, Aunt Grace, Uncle Michael. Slowly, cautiously warming to them. Mama Ngozi and I are like sisters. She finally knows my full story. We run the orphanage and shelter together. The children thrive. The elderly women have peace. Some evenings I return to the old veranda on Adebayo Street. I sit under the mango tree that has grown tall and full. I speak to Joseph quietly. Did it, my love? They are learning what truly matters. And I am whole again. And always in the rustle of leaves, in the warm Lagos breeze, I feel his gentle presence answering, yes, my Maggie. We did. True wealth is not in hidden accounts or rising property values. It is in hearts that learn to love without condition. And children, biological and chosen, who call you grandma with pure affection. In a life rebuilt, stronger and kinder than before. And in knowing that even in our deepest betrayal, grace finds a way. This is my story. It took 70 years to live it. And every minute was worth it.